Hello everyone, this is passage 64, Difficult Dining, taken from the Argonautica. Let's carry on. Post-hike, after these things, Argonautai, the Argonauts, tenuerunt, held their course to Thrace, and after they apulerunt, after they steered their ship, after they drove their ship to the town of Salmidis, they egressi sunt looks passive but is active, that makes it a deponent verb. They got off onto the land, they departed onto the land, they went out onto the land. Ibi, there, cum quaesisent, cum plus the subjunctive, a temporal clause, when they had asked from the natives, quis, as soon as I see an asking word followed by a questioning word, like quis, I'm going to look for a subjunctive, which I have in obtinerent, and we are dealing with an indirect question. Who is the king, or sorry, who holds the kingdom of this region? That's a direct question. They asked who was holding the kingdom of that region, indirect question. So there, when they had asked from the natives who was holding the kingdom of that region, they facti sunt, they were informed. Certiorem facio is I inform, so they certiores facti sunt, they were informed. And as soon as I see informed, I know that that's a verb of saying or thinking, albeit in the passive. So I'm going to look for an accusative, ta-da, and an infinitive, ta-da. So they were informed that a certain Phineus, accusative, was then king. That is the indirect statement, hence the accusative infinitives. Cognoverunt etiam. They also learned, cognoverunt coming from cognosco, that's where we get cognition as in metacognitive thinking, as in cognitive therapy, to do with thinking. So, they also learned that this man was, Caicus was blind, and that he adfici. So again, as soon as I see a verb of learning, a verb of thinking, I'm going to look for an accusative and an infinitive. And indeed, we have another then infinitive there. So they also learned that this man was blind and that he adfici, that he was afflicted, passive infinitive there, that he was afflicted by a certain dire supplicio, I'm going to say here curse or something like that, sadness, grief. Quod, because once he praebuisset, he had shown himself very cruel in upon his sons. Crudelissimum there is the superlative. Quius, hoc erat genus. The type, genus is the subject of this sentence. So the genus, the type, quius, connecting relative here. The type of this curse, of this punishment, was this. This was the type of the punishment. This was the type of this punishment, if you will. Missa erant monstra. So let's look at this and let's figure out what's our subject going to be. Well, we start off by finding our verb, missa erant, pluperfect passive. But for that, if it's pluperfect passive, let's find our subject, monstra. So, monsters had been sent by Jupiter, quaedam, certain monsters had been sent by Jupiter. Specie horribile, ablative of quality, horrible, horrific in appearance, quae, which habebant, which had the heads of maidens, the bodies of birds. Hai volucres, these birds, quae, which appellabantur, which were called the harpies. The harpies featured, don't they, in Pullman novel, I just remembered here. But these were the harpies. These creatures, these birds, which were being called, third person, plural, imperfect, passive. These birds, which were being called the harpies, adferebant, were bringing the utmost trouble to Phineus. Quotiens enim, for every day, for whenever he had sat down, for each time he had sat down, when iebant, they would come and they would auferebant, and they would steal the food having been put down. Literally, they would steal the food as soon statim immediately as it had been put down. That appositum is a perfect passive participle. They would come and they would steal the food after it had been put down, having been put down, perfect passive participle, PPP. Qual factum est, literally, with which this was being done, so that he was not far, literally, with which thing done, it was done in such a way that he was not far, quin, that Phineus was not far from dying from death. Literally, this was done in such a way, quo, factum est, it was done in such a way, this happened in such a way, so in such a way that, abesset, form of result clause, that Phineus, the subject here, that Phineas was not. That Phineas was almost dying from famine. Was almost dying from hunger. That is passage 64. Well done, everyone.